welcome to episode 3 of the Supernaturally Suspicious podcast. I am one half of your host. My name is Amber, and I'm here with
Nikki.
Today, we are going to be talking about Frank Llyod Wright and the Taliesin. It's a very, very interesting story. I liked it.
What's a Taliesin?
It's a house.
Oh. It's a funny name.
I know. With the name, you would think that it would be some sort of like I
thought it was like some mythical creature.
Yep. Nope.
Unless the house is a creature.
That would be it. That'd make for a good episode.
So then, no, the house is not a creature.
No.
Okay.
It is not. No, when I was first, when we decided to do a podcast, this was actually the first story that I found, and I just couldn't stop looking things up about it. It's the hauntings itself are kind of your normal thing, but the backstory as to why it's haunted is so crazy.
Oh.
So
I love a good backstory.
I mean, it's tragic, but crazy.
I love a good backstory.
Right? So yeah, like I said, it is about Frank Llyod Wright. He was one of America's most treasured architects. He actually introduced the prairie style home. So that's typically like a one-story house, but with lots of windows to let in natural light.
Okay.
Which I'm not opposed to. I want a house like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in 1889, he was 21 years old, and he married a woman named Catherine Tobin. She went by Kitty for short. They actually had 6 children together and lived in a suburb of Oak Park in Chicago, Illinois. He soon started having an affair with Martha. I think her last name is Cheney. Cheney. It's Cheney. But he called her Mama for short, Mamah.
Oh.
Yeah, which was the wife of his neighbor and client.
Oh.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
Come let me design your home and I'll take your wife, too.
That does not sound like a good exchange.
No. No, it's not. So in 1909, Frank and Martha actually abandoned their families to travel to Europe for a year-long vacation. I would have issues.
Mm-hmm.
When they returned to Chicago, they were obviously no longer welcomed. So they decided to move back to Frank's home state of Wisconsin. Once there, Frank designed and built the Taliesin. Due to the nature of their affair, though, the press would dub it the Love Cottage. Which, okay, I get it. That's hilarious. But this place is so, when you think of a cottage, what do you think about?
Like a small little stone house in the middle of nowhere with a nice little garden and,
right.
What you read in storybooks.
Right. Well, so the Love Cottage was actually a massive estate built on 800 acres with the interior spanning 21,000 square feet and having 524 windows in the main house.
That's a mansion. That is
right?
Not a cottage.
Because also on that 800-acre property, he built an architect school and then a cottage on the property.
Oh.
So, yeah. Could you imagine living in a house with just the interior spanning 21,000 square feet? That's crazy.
No. But my house was big enough. Mine's just enough to hold us.
Right? Oh my God. Cleaning that place?
Oh, no. How many staffs did they have?
Oh, they had several.
Okay.
Because, like I said, he also built like an architect school on the property, so they always had people like in and out, and he was constantly designing things. I believe
Sounds
he
familiar.
even, yeah, I believe he even designed the Imperial Palace in Japan.
Oh,
I believe that's, I believe it was the hotel. It's a hotel. I don't know if it's still around,
okay.
um, but on the afternoon of August 15th, 1914, tragedy struck. While Frank was away in Chicago working on a design for Midway Gardens, now I know that's no longer around.
Okay.
I think it was, oops, I think it was
Get
just,
nervous?
I know. I think it was actually torn down within like not too long after it was actually built. Martha and her two children, 8-year-old Martha and 12-year-old John, sat down on the front porch to have lunch. At the other end of a 25-foot long passageway, Frank's laborers and draftsmen had also sat down at a dining table to be served lunch as well. I think that's crazy. I still can't get over how big the house is.
Yeah, no. No.
um, so Julian Carlton was a handyman and performed housework, while his wife Gertrude was one of the most, or was one who did most of the cooking for the Taliesin. So she basically did cooking for pretty much everybody that was there, that was in and out.
Mm.
Um, so see, now I lost my place because I started talking about stuff. I know, I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. I know, right? So professional. After serving soup to Martha and her two children, Julian had instructed Gertrude to leave the house. He then returned back to the porch with a hatchet and attacked Martha and the children.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, right? So that honestly, and all like it, that for me just happened so quick. I was like, well, wait.
There was more. Wow.
Right, right. Um, so Martha and her son were actually both killed, like right where they sat. Her daughter did
Mm.
manage to escape the table, but Julian caught up with her in the courtyard and struck her down there.
Oh.
I know that's so. I mean, she was so her daughter was 8 and her
Oh.
child was 12.
Oh.
So that's just kind of, it's a little much.
Jeez.
Um, I know I couldn't even imagine. Um,
That's deep.
yeah. Uh, as the workers were eating, Herbert Fritz, he was a 19-year-old draftsman at the time,
Mm.
and his table mates heard something unusual. He did later say, "We heard a swish as though water was being thrown through a screen door. Then we saw some fluid coming under the door. It looked like dishwater." But what they didn't know at the time was that the lady and the children of the house had already been murdered, and what they heard and saw was Julian dousing the floors with gas.
Oh.
Yeah, so he was about to, just set the whole place up with
That's,
everybody inside.
Julian sounds like a real winner.
Well, but I find it, I mean, like, I find it odd that his wife did, like, I mean, if my husband came up to me, like if we worked like that in a situation where we worked at somebody's house
Mm-hmm.
and like I did the cooking and he did whatever, all the handiwork. If he came up to me after I served lunch and was like, "You need to leave," I think I would have been like, "Why?"
Yeah, we would have been talking about it. Well,
Right.
I would have been, can't say there'd be much of a talk, but there would be something. Wouldn't be like, oh, okay, let me just finish my lunch first.
Right. Yeah, no, I think there would be some like questions
Yeah.
going on there.
Well, what the hell is happening?
Why do you want me to leave?
Like, why now? We are in our love cottage.
Oh God. Uh, oh yeah. So Julian obviously was dousing the floors with gas. Um, the dining room suddenly burst into flames. The door had been locked from the outside. So Herbert had to escape by jumping out the window that he was seated next to. He
Mhm.
rolled down a hillside to extinguish the flames from his hair and his clothes. That would be terrifying to me.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, just to be on fire in general.
That.
But
I think the hatchet's worse though. I don't.
yeah,
I could
well,
be wrong.
yeah, I don't know. I
Oh,
don't know.
so the children, were they Julian's children or
Nope,
were
nope. They
they?
so Julian and Gertrude just worked at the Taliesin. Frank,
Okay.
because Frank's the one that built it,
Oh, that's
and then
right.
Martha was the one he was having the affair with.
Okay.
So, because at this point, he is still married to
Mhm.
Catherine because Catherine refused to get a divorce.
Okay.
So so that's why they went back to Wisconsin and he built this house for him and basically him and his mistress
Okay. Okay.
and
I'll
the
call.
2 kids. Right. So he pretty much just left his wife and 6 kids, like just left them
Wow.
to go be with this lady.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Um but yeah, so when Herbert looked back up towards the Taliesin, he could see that Julian was swinging a hatchet at his coworkers as they tried to escape the blaze. I, this guy has lost his shit.
Oh my gosh.
But I mean, at that point, you don't want people to be able to point you out, I guess.
Well, uh,
Because I'm assuming
maybe
since this
you
place
think
was
about that before you attack people with a hatchet in the first place.
right. Well, I mean, for as big as this place is and the things that they had, with the school and the cottage and then the huge ass house,
Mhm.
they had to have several people there at all times. Like
Yeah.
even if Frank was out of town, like the house was always full of people.
Yeah.
So I mean, did you really think you'd get them all?
That's the question. I mean, well, at least all in the vicinity, because I guess that's a lot of ground to cover.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's 21,000 square feet. That's crazy. But I guess, he was hoping he could just like lock them inside and, be done with
Set
it.
your place on fire.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So yeah, that's what he did as people were trying to escape, he was basically just trying to like strike them down. Um, but although badly burned, Billy Weston, who was 35 at the time and a carpenter, and David Lindblom,
Mhm.
possibly, he was a landscape gardener. They managed to escape with Herbert. Um, Basically, what they had to do, they ran literally half a mile down the road to the nearest house to call for help. And when the fire department did arrive, they found Martha, her 2 children, 2 coworkers, and 13-year-old Ernest Weston, who was Billy's son, um, all deceased. And then David would later pass the one who did escape with them, the
Mhm.
gardener. he would later pass from the burns that he received. So that totaled in 7 deaths.
Jeez.
I know. Um, it was hours after the attack, though. This is the crazy part to me. Julian had a plan, apparently.
Well, I hate to say this, but I would hope so.
I know. But hours after the attack, Julian was found hidden in the basement furnace, barely conscious. Because, back then, and obviously for the size of the house, they had those huge, like, wood burning furnaces.
Yeah.
That you could literally just crawl into if you wanted to.
I have a wood burning stove.
But like, when you see in scary movies where kids are like, "Oh, I'm gonna play hide and seek," and then one of them always goes into the basement and there's that huge scary ass wood burning
Yeah.
furnace that creeps you out. It was like one of those.
And mine's kind of small, but a small person could definitely fit in it. So.
Right.
Okay.
But his plan was to hide there to prevent from being burned, but he had brought some acid with him to take his own life if the heat became too unbearable. I don't why would you do that?
So this was a plan.
Yeah.
Like he
But
woke up that
why would
day
you
and was
take
like,
why would you take acid though? Because I mean essentially is that's I think that's a bad way to die.
yeah, but I think it would be faster than burning alive.
Well, so did he. But he never gave a reason for his attacks, and he ended up dying 7 weeks later from starvation as the
What?
result of his injuries because he couldn't eat. He burned his throat out.
Oh my God. So of all things this shit human could possibly die of, it was just starvation.
Yeah.
I guess that in itself is torture. I like food, so
Like food.
that might be torture for me.
Well, I mean, because, he couldn't eat because, the acid basically destroyed his throat and esophagus and things. So
Good
the
for
only
him.
thing they did, the only thing they could do was keep him in the hospital and keep, a fluid IV.
Until he died.
Right. So they kept him hydrated, but he couldn't eat anything because his insides were messed up.
Good for him.
Right.
Honestly, I love that for him. Too.
But if you think about it though,
That's
there was
torture.
a total of 7 deaths and he
Yeah,
died 7 weeks later.
good on him.
So
Well, I
is
mean,
that a coincidence?
oh,
Do you think like the ghosts were like, nah, you're gonna live for like 1 week for every person you killed?
hmm.
Because you typically die of starvation within 3 weeks.
Okay, but he had fluids, so maybe, maybe it's just a
Right.
coincidence. Maybe it's a half from the other side. You know?
Maybe. I don't know. I thought that was odd.
Yeah.
Um, but it was confirmed that Frank and Martha had told Julian and Gertrude that they were being let go because Julian was becoming increasingly paranoid and was often seen staring out of windows throughout the house just days before the attack. And Gertrude herself stated that Julian had started sleeping with a hatchet in a bag beside his bed. Um, and then she also said that they had train tickets to leave that night to go back to Chicago before he. So they were supposed to leave that night before all this went down.
Oh. So he had like a psychotic break or something.
I don't know. See, and that's one thing because I was trying to like look up. Um, I was trying to look more into him to see if there was anything else that was said. about like what was going on in the days leading up, but
Mhm.
that's really all I could find. They just said like for some reason he was just becoming increasingly paranoid.
Well, and
And
unfortunately, like there's so many undiagnosed issues back then because
right,
just nothing was known about it.
right. Yeah, cuz um I mean, and I believe back, it was still back in that time where husband and wife didn't sleep in the same bed. They slept in the same room, but they had two different beds.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, the only thing that I could find is that um is what Gertrude said, is that he really was just becoming like paranoid, and she couldn't figure out why. Like, and he wouldn't talk about it
Hmm.
at all. And so, but that's honestly with him and his behavior and the way that he was acting, that's the reason why they were being let go, because, it was starting to freak people out.
Yeah. Well, shit.
So, and from what I know from Gertrude, she, I mean, of course they were sad. She was sad
Hmm.
about being let go, but she completely understood, because I'm pretty sure it was starting to kind of freak her out too with the way that he was acting.
Hell, get rid of him.
Right.
Out of it.
Right. Um, so like I did say before though, Frank and Martha were never married because Catherine refused to
Hmm.
sign the divorce. Um, but after the death of Martha and the children, Frank did set out to rebuild the Taliesin.
Oh,
Um, and he actually finished the residential wing before the end of 1914. Um, and then but in 1916, the Taliesin would burn down again due to faulty wiring. And the that sucks.
hmm.
But the faulty wiring was actually because he was trying to put um like a telephone in. and, and yeah, the wiring of it was faulty, and it actually burnt down the same wing that he just remodeled. So 2 years later, it burnt down
What a
again.
wild time.
I know. But then he rebuilt it again, and from there it has remained the same. So nothing else happened after that. At least no more fires.
He was
And if
determined,
you
though.
I know. Oh, and I'm gonna add um into this podcast too. There's some beautiful pictures of that place.
Okay.
So I'm gonna try to add those in just so people can see it. Um, but so yeah, the Taliesin has remained the same. He did meet another woman by the name of Maud Noel, and she went by Miriam.
Hmm.
Um, and he did marry her in 1923 after Catherine finally agreed to a divorce. So it took her a long time to divorce him.
Do you think it's because she wasn't going to divorce him so he could marry Martha,
Martha,
the woman he
maybe.
had an affair with? I'd be spiteful.
Right.
I
Well,
would.
yeah, because so he was 21 years old in 1889,
Mhm.
and that's when he married Catherine. And then he met Martha in 1909. So that's 20 years later?
Mhm.
20. Yeah.
20 years.
I'm not I'm not math.
You're no math magician over here.
No mathematician. But anyway, um so yeah, I mean when you're with somebody for that long, I mean you don't want to let them go.
No, and I'm being spiteful.
Right.
You're not going to marry the lady you had an affair with.
Mhm.
Joke's on you.
Well, I mean, but come on, as soon as he up and left with this lady to Europe for a year,
Petty.
I mean you're not saving that.
Petty. Oh, it's not about saving it.
I'm just gonna be petty.
I'm just going to be petty.
Yeah, so in regards to the hauntings there, um, they do say that, memories of the tragedy do still linger today. Um, in the wake of the attack, when the firefighters did get there, what they did was they took the badly burned people to the cottage, and then, you know, moved some of the other people there as well. Um, and that is where Martha's spirit is said to be seen to this day. Um, and she's seen wearing like a long white gown and kind of aimlessly walking around. Because it's kind of like she's lost,
Yeah.
which is sad. It is also said that doors and windows open and close by themselves, and lights turn on and off. And then you can also hear voices of children and smell phantom smoke and gas. So the smoke and gas and the voices of the children are all in the main house. Um, I just think it's super sad, like for Billy Weston to have, his 13-year-old son there and be one of the ones that died. Like,
Yeah.
it's you're basically like, it's, your boss is like, yeah, bring your child to work, it's fine.
And then that happens.
Right. Like,
And
I
nobody
mean,
knows what made him flip.
no, and he, like I said, he never gave a reason as to why he did what he did.
Hmm.
So, and that's what makes this story so frustrating
Yeah.
because huh?
I said, yeah.
Yeah, because
There's
there's no like reason given. It's just
no
like,
answers.
right, he just kind of like lost his shit and did what he did.
With no explanation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, okay. So smell of smoke and smell of gas.
Yep, the phantom smell of smoke and gas, and then the children's voices. Um, in regards to them, like I said, in regards to that, that is in the main house.
Hmm.
Um, and Martha, I'm assuming Martha's at the cottage because that's where they took her after the fact. Um, I don't know why ghosts are always in long white gowns though.
Especially if no, because you have that popular one that you hear about the lady on the side of the street. She's always wearing a white gown or a white
Right.
dress of some sort, and whether it's a nightgown. Like I've heard things about nightgowns or just gowns, and
Or white. Right. Yeah, I
I'm
don't.
sorry, but I think if they've made it to the other side, they're not going to be haunting us.
Right. Well, and I think it's mostly when like tragedy happens,
Hmm.
and you're not ready. I think that's when people tend to stick around. But I also think people can come and go though, too.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Telling you, if I can haunt people when I die, I'm haunting people. I am, and I'm not gonna do mean, malicious things. Like I'm gonna do
Right.
stupid things, like I'm hiding your keys. I'm, you
You
know,
thought you were going to work today?
April Fools. I'm hiding your keys. I'm turning on your light. I will seriously open up all your cupboards, and then
Well,
when
but
you
that's what
close it,
this
I'm
I mean,
opening.
that's what this one said. Like
Oh,
like doors and windows open and close by themselves and lights turn on and off. And that's in the cottage, throughout the main house. Like I can imagine like like if nobody lives at the cottage or whatever, but they go in there to like clean up or whatever, to dust.
mhm.
Um like you shut all the windows, and you shut the door, but then you go back out, the next day,
And
or
it's
you
all,
go outside and you realize there's a light on when you shut it all off, and you go in and like windows are open, and I
well, they're
don't know
probably
how I'd
trying to
feel
get that
about that.
gas smell out.
Maybe.
Probably air it out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, no, because I don't know. That's just crazy to me.
No, that just wow. So I seen a TikTok. Um, it was a while ago I seen it, and it said, "What if ghosts didn't know they were dead, and like they were
Mhm.
walking around their houses? Like, why is somebody shutting my things? No, they just go opening shit, and like, why is this moved? So it's like a game of tug of war.
So it's kind of, yeah, kind of like the movie The Others. Like
Yeah,
they don't know, yeah, they don't know that they're dead,
yeah.
and yeah,
Things just keep moving and switching, and it's like, who keeps moving my things? And then, the ghost thinks it's being haunted.
right. But I mean, honestly though, that could happen. Like if you die in a tragic way, and you just wake up and you're like, oh, I'm okay, and you just kind of
Yeah,
go on about your stuff, you know.
things are fine. It's all fine.
Like I don't know.
But, I do know I want to watch the others again because I haven't seen that in years.
Hmm.
And Nicole
Yeah, no,
Kid
that's it.
killed it.
Yeah, that was a really, really good movie.
Was I have to rewatch that. But
Yeah.
sorry, didn't mean
Oh
to
no,
go on
you're
my
fine.
little movie tangent.
No, that's fine. I don't. That's pretty much the whole story of the Taliesin.
So,
Frank.
does anybody live there now? Is it a
It's
museum of sorts?
Yep.
Is
It's
it?
it's like a museum.
Oh,
Oh, and I don't know what I did with my book. I had a book. Oh, there it is. When I initially found the story, let's see. Uh, so yeah, it's basically like a museum. So you can go there. Um, Frank did end up dying in 1952. Um, let me see. I want to see if there's anything else.
oh, he lived a long time.
Yeah, a really long, because if you consider in 1989 he was 21,
Yeah,
and then he died in 52. Again, math.
yeah. And for that time, like that was that's a long time.
Yeah. Well, but to be fair, like I said, he was one of America's famous architects.
Well,
So,
I mean, illness still strikes famous
I
people.
no, and I get that, but he
Oh, he
had
had
the
money
money
for, yeah,
to get,
treatments
and also he traveled the world. So,
but it sounds like he escaped death a couple times. I mean, his house caught on fire twice. One at the hands of a, you know,
deranged psychopath.
yeah, who decided now was the time to hack people. Like, of all things
Well,
to
and
hack.
see, but that's another thing though. Why would he wait until Frank was gone? Not saying that Frank had anything to do with it or he even knew that it was
Mm,
going to happen, because they had train tickets to leave that night.
mm, maybe
But
he did.
well, I know, but if he's always, I mean, he's always traveling for business. So
Yeah, but
maybe he could have been gone more often than not.
yeah, he could have gotten in Julian's head one way or another, and that could like account for like the paranoia, just
Right.
getting inside his head. And because if you already know somebody is pretty I don't know the right word to use for it, kind of on edge, you know,
Hmm.
or easily influenced. Could imagine it'd be easy, but then, I don't know. Was it the wife? Was it Kitty?
I don't know. Because honestly, for her, there's not too much said. Because, I mean, they were going back to Chicago, and, they originally lived in Chicago.
And it's just weird. After Martha passed is when she was like, all right, I'll sign the divorce papers.
Right.
I'm on to Kitty.
I'm on it.
I'm on to Kitty. I think it was
Yeah.
Kitty.
You know what? I did not even think about that.
Because, I mean, I wouldn't want the person my husband left me for, I wouldn't want to see them ever again.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
she's like, all right, now I'll sign the divorce papers after she's done. Hmm.
Yeah, because it wasn't really too much longer after Martha and the kids passed, because they passed in, what I say, 1914. Yeah, 1914.
And when did he remarry?
1923.
Hmm.
Because the Taliesin burned down again in 1916, and then he met, um, what I say her name was, Miriam, was what she went by. Yeah, met her and then married her in 1923 after Catherine finally agreed to the divorce.
Sounds suspicious.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even, you know what? Did not even think about that as I was writing the story. But
Stick
that's
with
a
me,
good
kid.
point. That is a really good point.
Everybody's
I
a
mean, she could have been just so mad.
And back then it was women were really never looked into for crime. So she could have easily sent Julian out there, already
Right.
knowing that he was you know, mentally ill, maybe.
Mhm. Well, I do know now that so the area of the Taliesin is only 490 acres. So they did sell off, a good chunk of the land. But if you did ever want to go there, it is actually located in Spring Green, Wisconsin. Um, and you can actually go in and like look around and all that. It's pretty cool actually.
Now, is the architect school still there? The
Is what?
architect school still there? Isn't that what you said
Um,
Tebow on
yeah,
the
the architect school.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if it is or not.
I mean, honestly, they probably made it into something else.
Well, because they call it, so the owner of the property is the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation. So, I mean, there's a good chance that there's an architect school still there on the property. I don't know if it's like active.
Hmm.
Um, but I do know because he was continually like renovating and expanding the Taliesin
Okay.
even after the fact. So there was he modified it. There's at least over 200 documented changes that he made to the actual home,
Hmm.
which is a lot. But I mean,
Yeah.
if you're an architect, you're always wanting to change things or like try to make things,
Architect and you're rich. Like,
right.
I would never stop.
But I mean, having 524 windows just in the main house, that's crazy.
I don't know why anybody would do that. Could you imagine how much Windex they go through?
A
Like,
lot, I'm
like,
sure.
my heart goes out to the people that have to clean and dust that house and those windows. You are forever in my thoughts and prayers.
So it does look like they're typically closed, like the Taliesin is typically closed through the week, but Friday, Saturday, and Sunday you can actually go visit the place from like 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay.
Which I think it would be pretty freaking cool to go there.
Absolutely. And you know, it's only open so long, so I can only imagine. There's so many things happening there that nobody knows about, you know?
Like, I don't think, because I watch like a lot of ghost things on YouTube and stuff. I don't think I've ever seen anybody, I don't know if they will allow people to ghost hunt there or, stay overnight.
Yeah.
Or they could. Maybe that's why it's closed half of the week and only open on the weekend. But I've never seen anybody like explore it. So it would be neat to either at least go there during the day just to see.
Yeah. No, I think that would be super neat.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the Frank Llyod Wright story. Well, in regards to the Taliesin, like I said, he designed several things. And I'll add some of the pictures in here, especially of the Taliesin. But if you ever just want to see what else he did, I encourage you to Google some of the projects that he's done because they're amazing.
Be checking some of it out.
But on that note, I think that's going to conclude episode 3.
I think this was a good episode. I like it. There's a little bit of mystery in it. I got to play detective.
Well, it's unresolved, No,
I resolved it. It was Kitty. I solved it.
That is not fact.
Off the little information I have, I suspect Kitty. Let's make sure my last name isn't listed. I don't want any lawsuits.
I don't want any lawsuits. Oh, Lord. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe just so you can have more fun like this.
Bye.
Bye.